There is a kind of fear that doesn't shout. It whispers. It waits in quiet moments and asks, what will happen to me? What if it all falls apart? What if I make the wrong choice? This is the fear of not knowing. We are taught to plan, to prepare, to be certain. But life rarely gives us guarantees. And when we can't see what's next, the mind begins to panic. We grasp for answers. We try to control what cannot be controlled. We confuse certainty with safety. But the Buddha saw through this illusion. He taught that clinging to what is unstable, including our need to know, only creates more suffering. In the Avyakata Unanswered Questions, a disciple asked the Buddha, is the world eternal or not? Eternal. Does the Tathagata exist after death or not? And the Buddha remained silent. Why? Because he saw that these questions didn't lead to liberation. They only fed the mind's craving for certainty. He said, it is not conducive to the goal to Nibbana. Majjhima Nikaya Nampratika. The Buddha didn't encourage blind belief, but he also didn't answer every question. He taught us to live in the reality of this moment, not in endless speculation. Because wisdom is not found in knowing everything. Wisdom begins when we learn to stay with what we don't know. So what if uncertainty isn't the problem? What if it's the doorway? In the next part, we'll explore why the Buddha remained silent in the face of life's biggest questions and how that silence carries a teaching all its own. Not knowing is not weakness. It may be the first step to peace. The Buddha was one of the wisest teachers to walk the earth. Yet, when asked some of life's biggest questions, he stayed silent. Is the universe eternal? Does the enlightened one exist after death? These weren't trick questions. They were real concerns, deep questions born from fear, hope, and the human need for certainty. And still, the Buddha said nothing. In the Kulamalunkyovada Sutta Majjhima Nikaya 63, a monk demanded answers. The Buddha replied with a parable. Suppose a man were wounded by an arrow, and he refused treatment until he knew who shot it, what kind of wood the shaft was made from, and what feathers were on it. He would die before he got his answers. This story reveals something profound. We're often so busy trying to explain life that we miss the chance to heal. The Buddha didn't avoid these questions out of ignorance. He saw that some questions don't lead to freedom. They entangle us in speculation. Instead of theorizing about the nature of the cosmos, he focused on the direct experience of suffering, craving, and liberation. He said, I teach suffering and the end of suffering. In other words, start where you are. Start with what can be known not by intellect, but by insight. His silence wasn't a refusal. It was a redirection, to be fully present with what is, rather than getting lost in what might be. So many of our fears come from the mind's attempt to grasp what cannot be grasped. But the Buddha's silence teaches us, you don't need all the answers to be at peace. In the next part, we'll explore how to live with questions, how to embrace uncertainty as a living practice, not a problem to solve. Sometimes silence is not emptiness, it is clarity. We often treat uncertainty like a problem to fix, a temporary state until we figure things out. But what if uncertainty is not a problem? What if it's a path? The Buddha never promised certainty. He offered something deeper, the capacity to meet life without needing it to be fully known. In the Kalama Sutta Anguttara Nikaya 365, the Buddha told villagers, do not go upon what has been acquired by repeated hearing, nor upon tradition, nor upon rumor, when you know for yourselves that these things are wholesome, blameless, praised by the wise and beneficial, then enter on and abide in them. He invited us to investigate, to trust direct experience, to live the question rather than grasp for fixed answers. This is radical in a world that tells us certainty equals control. But life is not controllable, and neither is awakening. The Buddha taught that everything is impermanent, anicca. Thoughts, feelings, bodies, even beliefs. To live wisely is to flow with this truth, not to resist it. When we stop demanding that life be certain, something shifts. We soften, we listen more, we fear less. In the Dhammapada, it is written, The foolish man seeks happiness in the future. The wise man makes peace with the present. Dhammapada verse 290 adapted. Living the question means being at peace with not knowing. It means showing up each day with humility. I don't know what will happen, but I will meet it with presence. And strangely, in doing so, we begin to feel more stable than ever. Not because we have answers, but because we're no longer afraid of the unknown. In the next part, we'll explore why certainty is not the same as freedom and how awareness, not answers, is the ground of peace. We often think freedom comes from certainty, knowing what to do, knowing what's next, knowing who we are. But the Buddha showed us something surprising. Certainty can become its own kind of prison. When we cling to what we believe, to how things should be, to what we think we know, we stop seeing clearly. In the Bahia Sutta Udana 110, the Buddha said, "In the seen there is only the seen. In the heard, only the heard. In the sensed, only the sensed. In the cognized, only the cognized." This is pure awareness, free from clinging, free from interpretation. Just presence. Freedom doesn't come from having all the answers. It comes from being awake in this moment. The Buddha did not tell us to build our lives on fixed beliefs. He told us to observe, to see, to let go. In the Diamond Sutra, it is said, "A person who sees that all appearances are like a dream, a phantom, a bubble or a shadow, that person sees the truth. What is certain today may fall apart tomorrow. What we were sure of may change in a heartbeat. But awareness stays. And when we rest in awareness, we discover a peace not dependent on the world being predictable. It is the peace of openness, of flexibility, of not knowing and not needing to. So what if freedom isn't control? What if freedom is trust? The trust that you can meet whatever comes, with presence, with curiosity, with a mind that doesn't grasp, and a heart that doesn't close. This is the wisdom of uncertainty. Not a flaw to fix, but a doorway to deeper seeing. You don't need to know everything. You only need to be here, and here is where freedom begins.